Suzuki's faithful DRZ400 has been around for over 20 years. They must have gotten something right because almost nothing has changed since its launch in 2000. Yes, it's still carbureted. Yes, the dash looks like it's straight out of the early 90s, and yes, you can get much more modern bikes for the same price. Modern bikes, however, cannot deliver the simple, carefree fun that makes this ancient little Suzuki so special.
Here we are on Suzuki's DRZ400SM. This ain't no regular DRZ400SM. It's my DRZ400SM. Now Suzuki's been making this bike for over 20 years and they really haven't fucking changed anything. Came out in like 2000, honestly. Like, I think SM came out in 04 or 05, but the SM is still a DRZ 400 underneath. Main difference being the SM comes with bigger brakes, 17-inch wheels and tires, inverted front fork. But apart from that, it's the same 400cc thumper that Suzuki's been selling for 20 years. I'll just cruise behind them for a minute. Anyways, this is a good opportunity to talk about the ergonomics on this bike. It's totally upright. It's a dirt bike, so it's not going to tire you out. Leaned over, clip-ons, sore elbows and knees. This bike is really comfortable. The stock seat kind of sucks. It's like sitting on a 2x4. Everyone says it, and you might think it's a joke, but it really, like, I've done day-long rides on the stock seat on the DRZ, and it's possible, like 100%. In no way is it not possible, but man, oh, look at this! Interruption from Lake. But this seat concept seat makes it a little better. Now, I don't think it's going to turn into a fucking touring bike, because it won't. Comfort's not what this bike's about, but goddamn, speed and fun is. Now, when I say speed, I mean speed through corners. Gotta make a distinction there. Speed in a straight line, I'm pinned, and I mean, it goes, but oh god, there goes my phone. Alright, well, put my phone back in my pocket. I'm glad the phone... That wasn't what I expected to happen. Thought the GoPro was gonna come off, not the fucking phone. Alright, well. That was a good save, crotch. What do we think about this bike? Well, I freaking love it. When you're on a road like this, twisty, kind of bumpy, empty, that's nice. God, this bike is perfect out here. And the nice thing is, because it's it's based on a dirt bike, even though it's on street tires, it soaks up on so well. It really encourages you to just get after it, have fun, not worry too much about the road surface. Obviously, you still got to scan for gravel and wet patches and all the things you normally have to look for on a bike. But I got to say, this bike with its soft suspension and lightweight is a lot more forgiving on changing road surfaces, gravel. Let's talk about wheelies. So this is being my first bike. I learned how to do wheelies on it, but it is easy to wheelie this thing. It really wants to do them. That's because it's got all this torque immediately. It's light, and if you fuck up and you have to drop the front wheel down, it's just like, okay, sure, whatever, I'll take that. I've blown the front forks out of other bikes doing wheelies, especially being a novice doing wheelies, so I'm not always bringing it down on throttle or you know, occasionally you freak out, you just chop the throttle completely and drop the front end down. This bike will take it. It'll take that, no problem. Most other bikes, you do that enough times, you're gonna blow a fork seal out. It's gonna happen. Where's that go? Little roads in the middle of nowhere. Well, that brings me on to my other point about this bike. The reason that this and supermotos in general are just so much fun is that you can go where you want. There's no having to stay on paved roads. You know, you can hit gravel roads, you can even hit trails. Like, I've seen people do trails on street tires of the supermoto. Those people are better riders than I am. But it's possible. I've seen it. I know that this bike will go almost anywhere. Now, mud, sand, okay, yeah, the street tire is not going to get you through that. And if it does, it'll probably, my Tesla. If it does, it'll suck. It'll be spinning the whole time. You'll be walking the bike, hiking the bike, doing whatever. But gravel roads, a little bit of dirt, no problem. Absolutely no problem for this thing. Oh man. Now normally these bikes are not this loud. I put this exhaust on this bike. I didn't buy it. Came on my first DRZ. And if I could do it all over again, I might actually get something a little bit quieter. Neighbors hate this bike. Neighbors don't like it. They come out and look. When I park at a friend's house, if I leave late, I feel like an asshole for being so insanely loud. But when you're out here, oh, it's perfect. Oh yeah, out here is a good bike. The reason that I was drawn to supermotos in the first place was, well, there's a bunch of reasons, but I think the biggest reason for me was being new to bikes back, you know, eight years ago or so. I came from small lightweight cars. You know, my first car was a Miata, had like S2000s, E30s, you know, pretty small cars. Usually sub 3,000 pounds is kind of my happy place when it comes to vehicles. And I decided to apply that same mentality to the bike. I thought, well, what's the point getting like big, heavy sport bike, or, well, I guess sport bikes aren't big and heavy, but I don't know. Let me get something small, nimble, light, simple. And that brought me to the DRZ. And it, you know, I couldn't have asked for a better bike. I think everyone should really start on a little torquey dual sport like this. Yeah, you can start on a 600, no problem. Like, they're not as intimidating as people make them out to be. But man, just the way this bike corners, the amount of control you have over it, it doesn't really do anything surprising. Oh, caught this guy again. Caught up to the pickup truck. But it's just a really easy to handle bike, and having was like 33 horsepower or something, you know, it's not a lot. It's a 400cc single, so don't get this thinking it's gonna win you any races. But alright, buddy. What a nice gentleman. Cool thing about this bike too is you can be a beginner, a pro. I'd say I'm somewhere in between, still closer to a beginner, even though I've been riding for 8 years. And God, this bike is still so good. Like, I have a faster bike. I have a Ducati Hypermotard, which is great. But it's interesting that despite the speed and the power of that thing, goodbye. Despite the speed and the power of the Hyper, I don't miss it on this thing, and that's just because it's so nimble. It's probably 80 pounds lighter than that Ducati, and boy, do you notice it. Oh, this thing is good. This thing good. The brakes are not that great, I gotta say. For being honest here, the brakes on this bike are just barely adequate. I need to bleed the fronts, they're not that great on it. Fluid's old, but man, oh man, you don't need a lot of brakes when your bike's this light. The Thumper's got really good engine braking too. I mean, most motorcycles in general have better engine braking than cars because they're small and light, and you know, it takes less force to slow her on down. But my oh my, is this thing, it's just like a Miata. It's a momentum machine. It wants you to just keep the pace up, and on the street I could never imagine needing something faster than this. I mean, I take that back. If you want to ride on the freeway, then yeah, you definitely need something faster than this. That brings me to a good point. This bike, not a highway bike. Just isn't. Don't even try and say it is. It ain't. Yes, you could probably put a windshield on it and re-gear it and do a bunch of stuff to try and make it a better highway bike, but it ain't. You'll be fighting a losing battle. This bike is really meant for roads like this. Small, twisty roads in the backcountry. It'll do a little bit of freeway if you need to get out to the road like I did today. You know, I rode almost an hour on highways to get out here, and it did it no problem. Oh God, I think it's still so good. Keep on checking on the GoPro. Sorry for my hand touching it all the time. I just want to make sure it's on my face still. But yeah, I hit about an hour highway and freeway to get out here, and it'll do it. I'd say changing the seat's probably the easiest way to make that part of the journey less annoying, but I don't know about a windshield. This bike just doesn't want to go over 65. Like, it'll do it. I've seen triple digits on this bike. But oh, nice smooth road over here. But yeah, it doesn't want to go over 65 for any kind of extended period of time. It's just not, it's not what this bike is about. It is about this. Oh yes. Oh, it's all about this. God, supermotos are fun. And it's just so fucking nimble, man. On medium speed roads, like this road has a bunch of 20 mile an hour and 15 mile an hour corners, so it's really perfect for this bike. If you're on a road that's got like high speed sweepers where you're probably going over 70, 80 through those high speed sweepers, then you do start to notice this bike gets knocked around on bumps. And that's just because it's so light, you know, at really high speed it feels a little nervous sometimes. That's 80. I mean, no, it's not. But it'll hang in the higher speed stuff. But if you're out there riding with your buddies on, I don't know, leader bikes and fucking fully blown street touring bikes, then you might get a little tired of being pinned in fifth trying to keep up with everyone. Oh man, this is good. But if you're on a road like this, I challenge anyone to ride a real supermoto that's, you know, dirt bike based on a road like this and not have a good time. Oh man, this might take so long to get past like 80. Jesus, there might have been slightly past 80 on that straight, but man, this bike's not fast. If you want a fast bike, don't buy the DRZ. If you want a fun bike, do buy the DRZ. Fun, not fast. Although, I don't know, if you're coming from a Grom, then this will probably be fun and fast for you. Everything's relative. So what makes a Supermoto special? What makes a Supermoto special? Well, first and foremost, the weight. Straight up, that's it. You know, if you've ever ridden like a pit bike, and it just makes you feel like a kid when you're on a pit bike because it's so small, so nimble. There's a bicycle out here. It really will do whatever you want. You feel like you've got control over the bike. It's not intimidating. And the same can be said for a Supermoto. Now, yes, this one is 400. There's the dirt part. So it's a little bigger, a little heavier than like a, I don't know, 125 Sumo or actual pit bike, but it still feels like a small bike, and that's really the appeal of Supermotos for me. So because it feels small, I can hit gravel patches and have a little more confidence in the bike that I could probably save it with my foot if I really have to. And just the torque, the instant responsive nature of this thing makes it a hoot to ride, and you don't have to be all the way in the revs to have fun. You just whack throttle open almost anywhere and it just goes. It's like, yep, here's that power you wanted. Now this bike in particular isn't stock, I gotta say. It's got a little bit more poke than a stock DRZ400 would. This one's got a full titanium Powerbomb FMF pipe on it. It's got the 3x3 airbox mod, and the carb has been jetted for that additional airflow. So this thing's got a little more poke than a stock DRZ would, not by a lot. I think they're rated at 33 horsepower. Maybe this one makes closer to 40. I don't know, that's probably like a really ambitious number, but I will say that riding this versus the stock one, it's hard to tell if it's just the noise or if it really is faster. It sure as hell feels faster, but I can vouch that on cars and bikes, when you put an exhaust on it, it'll all of a sudden feel like it's faster because it's louder. And in reality, you're not really going a whole lot faster, you're just making more noise. On this bike though, I'd say the throttle response is definitely improved from the mods. It just has that little bit more immediate response. And honestly, they sound really boring without any kind of pipe on them. Really quiet, which, I don't know, I'm getting older, I'm starting to value that stuff a little more. Like, a quiet bike's cool. But when you're out here just trying to have fun, you know, it's nice to make some noise. Who is the DRZ400 for? Well, I think it's for everyone. Honestly, this bike works for advanced riders. You'll hop on this thing and have a blast. Intermediate novice riders, beginners, it's not intimidating. It's easy to ride. All the controls are really light. It just encourages you to ride it, really. If you're a shorter rider, it'll be a little bit of a challenge. The nice thing is that this bike's so light, comparatively at least, that if it does fall over, you can pick it up. One person, no problem. And if you are shorter, you can lean the bike over a little bit when you come to a stop, and it's not going to be like, you know, supporting a gull wing with one leg. It's pretty easy to handle. Whoa, hit a big old bump there. Yeah, my rear tire is low. I'm going to be a little bit more cautious now. Okay, so what have we learned about the DRZ400SM? Ooh, loose gravel. We've learned that the 400SM doesn't care about no loose gravel. This ain't nothing. Yeah, whatevs. What's it like to ride? It's a fun bike. It's a fun machine. I always liken it to an adrenaline pump. Now, you could probably call any motorcycle an adrenaline pump. Honestly, if you haven't ridden a motorcycle, just go ride one. Take the MSF course, do what you gotta do, get on one, and you'll see that they're amazing. They're all adrenaline pumps. However, if you already know about the gospel of the motorcycle and you really want, I don't know, adrenaline hit within a category of adrenaline hits, then the DRZ400SM is just that. You know, it's got instant throttle response. It's light, it's nimble, it's fun. I think it sounds pretty good with the pipe and everything. Stock they sound pretty lame, but yeah, man, if you haven't ridden one, just go ride one. You will very soon become a convert to the Church of Brap. I've ridden some sporty bikes, you know. I had an FZ8. I know it's not a full-on sport bike. It's got flat bars and a little more upright of position, but the tippiness of that bike, the weight of it, it really just didn't make me want to push the bike really hard. In really high-speed sweepers, like, you know, high-speed sweepers, I don't know what else to call them, that bike was really good. It was heavy, it was stable, but when the roads started to get like this, and I used to ride, before I had that FZ8, it belonged to a friend of mine, and we used to go riding together, and every now and then we'd swap bikes, and on the same road, you know, just pound for pound of how much fun are you going to have on the bike, the DRZ wins every single time. It's just, it's so good. It's so good. It's so eager. And at no point do I feel like I can't adjust mid-corner on this bike. On a bigger bike, sometimes it feels like once you pick a line through a corner, that's it. Like, that's your line. You can't really adjust it a whole lot. On this bike, man, it just encourages me to, you know, be playful, come in hot, scrub speed. You know, if you screw up your line on this bike, you've usually got a little bit of a leeway. Like right here, I probably apexed early, but it doesn't matter. Oh God, I will say this bike, because it's low power, spent a lot of time full throttle. My wrist actually hurts because I've been giving it so much throttle today. So I'm not really going to complain about that though, because that means I've been having a good time. Oh, is there a fire here? Oh, people camping. Hello. Do a little wheelie for the campers. I know they like that shit. Now, this is kind of the elephant in the room. This is the problem that I had for years, having a DRZ as my only bike, is this a good only bike? You know, I ended up supplementing it with another bike. I found that this bike is so pure and good for carbon canyons like this, but it really beats you up on the freeway if you're on the freeway for more than 30 minutes an hour. It just feels like the bike's not happy hanging out at those RPMs, and my ass is certainly not happy after an hour or so. So is it a good only bike? I don't know about that one. Like I said, I had it as an only bike for a while and it did fine. I've taken a DRZ Supermoto on, you know, 6, 7, 8 hour day rides. Ridden it from LA to the Bay Area and back, which is I think like 800, 900 miles round trip, and it's definitely possible. You know, don't let anyone tell you, oh, DRZs can't go on the freeway, because that's completely and utterly false. They can go on the freeway no problem. It's just a matter of what level of comfort are you looking for. And you know, I was much younger when I first got my DRZ. I was like, I don't know, 20, 22, something like that. And at that age, I didn't give a shit about being comfortable. I wanted fun, I wanted utility, I wanted a bike I could take on trails if I wanted to, on the canyons, mob around town, learn how to do wheelies. You know, it does everything. But the older I get, the more this bike doesn't fulfill all of my needs. I've gotten a little older, 31 now, and I want a bike that I can cruise on the freeway and not, you know, be vibey as hell, shaking me to pieces. A bike that's got a little more room on the seat for my butt, a little more room on the seat if I wanted to take a passenger, and something with a little more power for those higher speed roads. And for just passing in general, you know, man, it is frustrating with this bike. If you're, whoa, that's a big hole. That's another big hole. If you're on this bike trying to pass, but you're like already going 65, it sucks. There's no sugarcoating it. If you want to pass someone and you're already going 65, 70, then it's not easy. But I don't know why you'd really want to be passing people if you're already going that fast on this bike. You know, on roads that aren't fun, twisty canyons, I'll usually just hang out at 65 miles an hour on this thing. And it'll go faster, like I said. It just kind of beats you up. It's more tiring. It feels like you're being a lot harder on the bike when you're going that fast. So I usually don't mind getting stuck behind people on the street. Now, when I get onto roads like this, yeah, I pass people if they hold me up. And for very brief sections, you know, I'll get up to upper 60s, maybe 70 on a straightaway. But this bike's happy with that. You know, if you're just touching that speed and then easing back off, it's totally happy to do it. It's just maintaining that high speed for a long time where, you know, every bike's got compromises, and that is where this bike is definitely compromised in high-speed touring, which, what a surprise. You know, who would have guessed that a little 400cc dual sport is not great for long wheeler rides? Like, it's pretty obvious. Whoa, is that a truck? What are you doing here, truck? Hello. But yeah, that's what I gotta say about the DRZ as far as compromise goes. I think this is the ideal second bike. For me, it was my first bike, and then I ended up getting a sort of a complimentary bike to it. You know, I've had like a Versys 650 that like was really fun. I've had an FZ6, FZ8. I've ridden the FZ07 and love that bike. Almost got one of those instead of the Ducati that I own currently. But if you can only have one bike, you might want to be careful with the DRZ, because it is kind of lacking in a few areas. You know, it's a very uncompromised, fun bike, but it gives up a little bit as far as freeway manners and comfort, high-speed stability. Like, I can feel the vibes going through my ass. This is the first long ride I've had on this new seat, and it's better than stock, but man, my butt hurts. I'm ready for a beer. Let's say you're interested in getting a DRZ400SM, but you want to mod it. I fully support modifying this bike. I think it's it's so easy to work on. That's one of my favorite things about it. It's easy to pick up if you drop it. It's easy to work on. cheap for parts, plentiful. You can go to Cycle Gear and get damn near any part you want for this bike. There's no screwing around with dealer only parts and oh, this is discontinued. No man, they made this bike for over 20 years. You can get anything you want for it and then some. And you know, they make big bore kits. They have the FCR 39 carb that everyone does, just like a flat slide carb instead of this stupid vacuum actuated one. The factory carb is really annoying. It'll, like, if you just, even with it tuned right, if you just whack the throttle open from idle, it'll usually kill it. And I've just learned to live with it and be kind of careful with the throttle. I rebuilt the carb a couple times. I even had a pro rebuild it recently because I thought I was doing something wrong, but nope, that's just kind of how these darn things function. So if I were to get one to modify it, I'd probably just basically do what I got on here right now. The jet kit, exhaust, and, you know, intake and a filter. I really don't get why people sometimes buy these bikes. Carlton, that way. Okay, good. People sometimes buy DRZs and try and make them fast, and then brag about like how much power they got out of their little 400 DRZ, and it's like, dude, what? You spent so much money doing that, and I don't see what you actually got out of it except for a slightly faster slow bike. If you want a faster DRZ, go buy a Husky 701. Whoops, hitting the freaking GoPro. Go buy a faster bike if you want a faster bike. Like I said, I've got my other bike that is 800 cc's. It's got a little bit more legs to it, if you will. And, you know, it's better in certain situations, but the DRZ really is great out of the box, and you don't have to do anything to it. Like, if you want to mod it, pipe, airbox mod, jet kit, awesome, awesome. You've improved the bike, you'll have fun with it. But if you just want to buy it and ride it bone stock, like, it's equally as much fun. You're really not giving up much at all without the mods. The other really nice thing about this bike is, oh there, you can get one from 05 to present and they're pretty much the same thing. So you don't really have to worry about, oh, I got the wrong year and that year's better than this year. Nah, you're fine. You're fine. I had an 07 before this, and it had 20-something thousand miles on it. The only difference that I can tell between this 2014 and my old 07 is just it's lower miles. Like, a couple of the things on it there's less wear on them, but the actual function of the bike, identical. No difference whatsoever. Which is great. It makes the DRZ really attainable too. Like, you can pick one up with higher miles that's older and it'll probably work just fine. I've seen these bikes with like 30-40k still running on the original motor. My last one blew up at like 20-something thousand, but it was my first bike. The previous owner had done the pipe and the airbox mod, and I was like, oh, he probably did jetting to accompany it. And being a bit of a noob, I was like, oh, it's fine. What the fuck is this? Oh shit. There's bullet holes and shit. Wow. And the bike dies. Well, that's weird. It's attainable. These bikes are pretty cheap to buy, cheap to run, cheap to modify, cheap to insure too. This bike, man, I think it's like, I usually do liability on it because I've dropped these bikes and they never seem to break, so it doesn't really matter to me, but I think it was like $100 for the year to insure it, which is just wild. Speaking of how robust they are, so my first DRZ was like the year I started riding. I was a noob, I was a dumbass, and I made a pretty big mistake. I rode on the freeway not staggered, like directly behind a friend of mine. He let off the gas to let someone know that their gas tank was open or something, and I was a little bit tired, wasn't riding staggered. He let off the gas so the brake light didn't go on. I didn't know he was slowing down until I bumped his rear tire. Luckily he didn't go down, but I did. I went down on the freeway going about 70 or 80 miles an hour, and I slid for well over 100 feet. The bike passed me and kept going. Oh, look at all this prettiness. But yeah, I slid for 100 feet. The bike slid for maybe 150 feet. Got right back up. I was amazingly okay. But even more amazingly, I started the bike up and rode it home. It flipped over. It hit there were scratches on the front, on the backs, everywhere. It just got super messed up. But it didn't break. Nothing really broke. The bike was still fine. These bikes are tougher than you are. And oh, look at this. Look at this, Billy. Wow. Well, thank you for watching my review. Hopefully it's been slightly informative. If not just fun to watch. It's definitely been fun to make.